Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be having a look at the fabrication of a new anti-roll bar bracket for the near side. Now I'll include a couple of photographs now of the one that's fitted to the offside, which doesn't need replacement at all. It's good to go. But the one on the near side had quite a bit of corrosion in it, and as you can see probably there, it's perforated in the middle and also cracked. So I decided, when I was cutting all the other corroded sections out, I decided to cut this off as well. Now I'll zoom in so you can get a closer look in a minute, but I've already cut the metal out and I'm just getting used to this methodology of recording while I'm trying to manufacture something, and it's a difficult balance to get right. So you'll have to excuse me if I miss a few things out. You don't want to see me endlessly grinding some of the metal out of this, which I need to do. So it might be a fairly short video, it might not be, but I'll try to keep it as succinct as possible. So you'll have to bear with me over the next few videos while I get into the correct procedure, and to try and make it a little bit more interesting than just watching me folding metal and cutting bits and pieces off here and there. So yeah, I'll zoom in now and show you exactly what I'm doing. Okay, here we are. I'm actually struggling to get the lighting correctly. That's one thing I'll need to invest in. But anyway, I'm stuck with the lighting I've got at the moment. So as you can see here, we've got the old anti-roll bar bracket, which I actually flattened out. So I need to transfer the size of this to a new sheet of metal. But because this was corroded and some bits were missing, I actually measured as much as I can from this one and the one that's on the offside, and I carefully transferred all the measurements to a piece of thin card and measured where the bend needs to be, as you can see there, and then I transferred it onto a sheet of metal. This is 3mm, I think it is, thick steel. So as you can see, I transferred the measurements onto there, and then I cut out with a cutting disc on my angle grinder. Then I went ahead and marked on where the line should be: one bend there, one bend there, and one bend there. And as you can see, the hole here is rounded. So what I've done is I've actually drilled a hole at the point where the cut here and the bend here needs to be. So I've drilled one hole there and one hole there, which will help with the this won't fracture if it's subject to any stresses, I suppose. That's why it's that shape, I guess. So then I need to bend this part 90 degrees that way, this part 90 degrees, and this part 90 degrees. But before I do that, I've got to cut out the metal that's actually hatched there and there. So I'll do that off camera because obviously I don't want to get metal shavings and bits and pieces in the camera. I've also, and I've sort of mucked this up a little bit, although the positioning of these holes is correct, and at the back here you've got two captive or welded on 3/8 nuts. I'll just get the replacement 3/8 nuts I've got, and I'll show you a bit of a difference in them. The nut I've gotten from a company where I get most of my nuts and bolts from when I need them. But if I put these side by side, you can see a big difference there. This is far more chunky, although it's the same thread size, as you can see. I'll just put this in there. Whoops. Yeah. The same thread size. So then I marked out, which way around is this going? That's right. If you can see on there, you probably can't actually, but they're actually offset to each other. So I measured carefully and I transferred the measurements to these and countersunk where I needed to drill. Now I'll put some pilot holes in, and I drilled out with I can't remember what size drill it was now, but anyway. But when I come to drill them out, as I said before, my pedestal drill isn't working properly. So I try to do it by hand. And although they're holes, they're not exactly round holes, but the fact that I've got to weld a captive nut in, it's not going to affect it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to, and I'll do this off camera, is grind out these sections that need to be relieved. I'll come back to you, and then we will bend the sides and the front here, and then I'll weld them up so that they're strong, and then we can go ahead and weld on the captive nuts. So I've just shaped the side sections of this bracket, as you can see there. I'll probably... Okay, as you can see, I've made all the bends now, but I've made a fundamental error, and I don't know whether any of you spotted it earlier on in the video, and you can probably see now. On this side everything's almost okay, but I've got this length slightly wrong. I've measured it too far, so all I need to do is cut that off there and then put a curve in there, which is fairly simple to do. On the other side, however, if you see where these curves go, I'll turn it over. Oh dear. Simple thing here, that needs to be cut off level there, but this, the curve should be going that way. It's obvious now. I don't know why I didn't spot it while I was actually cutting it in the first place, but there you go, these things do happen. So I'm thinking, rather than try and make this whole piece again, and it's only support for support, I'll probably cut it off level there, turn it over and re-weld it. Which piece is it now? Yes, this piece here. It was up the other way, so I've just cut it off, turned it over and welded it into position, both sides, and ground the welds down, and that is now where it should be. Okay, so I've now pretty much finished the anti-roll bar bracket. There are just a few things to do, like fixing the captive nuts on the back here, so I'm going to do that in a minute. I've trimmed the sides down, as you can see there, to match the one on the offside. This is a little bit too long, so I'll cut that to length just before I weld this bracket on. And also I need to just take a little bit of metal out there, but it'll add a little bit of strength, I suppose, if I just leave it as is, but I will ground it and profile it a little bit. So now it's just a matter of using the anti-roll bar clamp and just tighten it in place. So I've got a position for the captive nuts, and I'll just tack them on. So as you can see, that's the clamp fitted in position, and now I'll just go off camera and just weld those nuts to make them captive. So now that I've welded those captive nuts in place, as you can see, and I've relieved that metal in this side here, as you can see there, that is the anti-roll bar bracket complete. Okay, so with the anti-roll bar bracket now finished, it's time to attach it to the chassis. So what I've done is I've got it in place with the anti-roll bar attached and fixed on with the support, and I've manoeuvred it into position so it matches the opposite side, and it's all ready to weld into position now. So I'll just take the camera off the tripod and just show you a little bit closer. Okay, I've wedged the ARB bracket in place, as you can see there, the best I can, and it's in the same position as the other side, as you can see there. So now I'm just going to weld it in place. I'll put a couple of tacks on and then just make sure the position is okay. And as you can see, just there, that's on the anti-roll bar bracket. And the chassis is level right to left. Okay, so next stage, welding. So the anti-roll bar bracket has now been welded on, and it's very solidly welded. Now this is again not the best welding in the world, and I'm going to do a bit more dressing of it and maybe put a little bit more weld on, but as you can see, it's in position. And here we've got one of the original bolts, and I've got to get some new ones because this one here is just slightly too long and it'll bottom out on the underside of the chassis rail. And these are actually 7/8 inches long, and I haven't got any at the moment, so I do like to use original bolts wherever possible. Yeah, I'll just put you back on the tripod and just summarise this, because now the near side chassis repairs are done and dusted. Okay, that pretty much concludes the repairs to the near side chassis rail, manufacture of the bumper iron support bracket and the anti-roll bar bracket. There are a few little jobs to do, like make sure all the welds are dressed properly and give it a good coat of zinc primer, and then the appropriate protection. And I'm going to do all of the chassis I can get to at that point. So what's next on the agenda for the Rover P4? Well, in terms of fabrication, I need to do to the offside partly what I've done to this side, and that it's not as involved, that side. I've got to make another bumper iron support bracket, and there's a bit of corrosion on the outside face of that chassis rail and underneath. At least that's as much as I can see at the moment. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to do that next, because I fancy a little bit of a change of direction in terms of repairs. I may have a look at the blower that I took off and showed in a previous video, and or the heater box. The next big fabrication job I need to do is the splash panels either side. This one has been repaired in the past, and it's an absolute, it's ridiculous how it's been done. but we'll get into that in another video. There's a bit of welding inside the car as well, on both sides, and then there's the access panel in the boot has just been welded up, or a piece of metal's been welded in, so I need to get that back to original, otherwise I can't get the rear bumper irons off, which I need to. So anything else to summarise? What I would advise anyone who is going to be buying a Rover P4 or a classic car of any description, to be honest, is a manual and a parts catalogue. And I found this absolutely invaluable, as someone advised me when I first bought the car. Thanks to them for suggesting that. Yeah, you can get all the right bolts, which I'm a bit of a geek over, to be honest. But anyway, that sums up this video. It's gone on a bit longer than I probably expected to have done once I've done the editing. So please like and subscribe. There'll be lots more coming in the near future. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. It probably won't be the repairs to the offside chassis rail, but if you do want me to do that, I will do. But please let me know what you think in the comments. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.